They always have my back and I'll have yours. That was President-elect Joe Biden's thanks and promise to African-American voters who helped deliver him the White House. 2020 has been a year blighted by violence against Black Americans, in some cases by the police, including George Floyd, who struggled to breathe because an officer was kneeling on his neck, Breonna Taylor, a medical worker who was killed in a botched police raid on her apartment, and Walter Wallace Jr., who was fatally shot by police after his family called for mental health assistance. That prompted widespread protests and civil unrest. Incumbent President Donald Trump also drew criticism for failing to denounce white supremist groups during the election campaign. The president of Black Lives Matter New York, Newsome, says for now he's happy with Joe Biden's win, but is looking forward to the fight ahead.
We have removed an outright racist, a misogynist, a xenophobe. We've removed the worst president in modern history from power. We've removed a white supremacist who refused to disavow other white supremacists from power. A man who has issued tweets from white supremacist groups, who's issued tweets that said white power. A man who has just made America the laughingstock of the world, right? Either a laughingstock or a place of pity, a source of pity. And we've removed him, but what we really have to understand is Joe Biden is not as progressive as a lot of other candidates were who were running in the Democratic primaries. So we're still going to have a lot to do. There's still a lot of fight left for Black liberation. This doesn't change much.
So, Hawk, did you vote for Joe Biden? And then, well, the next question would be, did you vote for him because he was better than the other guy, but not the best option possible?
Yeah, I think that strategically, in regards to the liberation of Black people, voting for Joe Biden made more sense. Joe Biden would have more of a sympathetic ear to our cause. He has done some pretty egregious things to Black people in the past, but right now, especially with his cabinet and Kamala Harris and with the atmosphere we've created with this Black Lives Matter movement, we'd be able to make more progress with Joe Biden.
So what role did African-American voters play in delivering this presidency to Joe Biden?
Well, if we look at Georgia, right, Georgia is what put him over the top, specifically Atlanta, Georgia. My team was down in Atlanta, Georgia, guiding voters to the ballot booths because Donald Trump had said that his people would be out with guns and intimidating people at the polling sites. He called them poll watchers. But what it was voter suppression and voter intimidation. So we went down and some of us were armed and we escorted voters to the polls in Atlanta, Georgia to make sure that they could vote safely. This is pivotal. Most of the mail-in ballots, from what I understood, was like from Black people. You know, there were a lot of Black folks who sent in their mail-in ballots. And what's really important is that Black people carry the Democratic Party. And the sad part of that is Black people always are left wanting. That's why I say that we have a serious fight ahead of us.
Hawk, I want to get onto that fight in a minute, but when New Zealanders listen to you and they hear that you went to the ballot, to the polling place armed, what were you armed with? What were people armed with?
Really huge guns that they probably don't have in New Zealand. Really like big machine guns or submachine guns.
Isn't that depressing, Hawk? Isn't that depressing that you go to cast your vote in America and people on both sides of the political spectrum are tooled up with weapons?
Unfortunately, yes. But you have to remember that even when we were fighting for the right to vote in this country, when Martin Luther King and those folks were marching for the right to vote, we weren't the ones with guns. We were the ones who were singing songs and being peaceful. But there comes a point where you're not even going out to incite violence, but you just want to feel safe, right? And it's hard to feel safe when the people who are opposed to you are training with weapons. Like Trump supporters were about to kidnap the governor of Michigan. The FBI captured them and had evidence that these people were going to kidnap the governor of Michigan. These people are scary, okay? These people are scary, and you just feel the need to defend yourself. Like, I don't want to be cannon fodder, but Donald Trump called me treasonous. Trump called me a traitor. I get death threats every day from his supporters. Like, are we supposed to just, A, be intimidated, or B, run away in fear? That's not an option for us, you know?
Joe Biden has thanked African American voters for having his back, and he says that he'll have your back. What are your expectations? If black voters delivered Joe Biden to the White House, what are you expecting in return from him?
Of the bare minimum. He'll do the absolute least that he can do without being seen in a bad light. He'll do what he can do to save face. There'll be big things, like there'll be these big symbolic gestures, but will it be thorough? Would it be hard hitting? Will his solutions go to the root of the problem? And without us forcing him to do that, I don't think that it will. We are calling it mission accountability, right? So our new mission is to hold Joe Biden and Kamala Harris accountable.
So the sad thing is that you can't vote away white supremacy. You can't vote away people's racist feelings. So what does success look like for you?
For me, today in the Bronx, in front of the building that I grew up in, we held a F Donald Trump party. You could fill in the blank. And we gave away about 300 bags of groceries to people. We bought 50 pizza pies. We gave away drinks. We had music out, balloons. Kids were painting. It felt like love. It felt like community. In order for Black people to achieve their rights in this country, then we have to build stronger communities. That's not necessarily sexy or really news garnering, because they're like, okay, they're going in and they're talking to people about what they need to do to be empowered, and they're feeding them, and it's good, feel good stuff. People would much rather see me leading a march in Manhattan with 3,000 angry people behind me, right? But that's not going to do it alone. Where we really win is by building a stronger community. That's where we win, by organizing our people.
What does it mean to have Kamala Harris as the vice president?
A Black woman who went to Howard University. I went there for law school. It's a good feeling for now. But in January, we will look at her as a former prosecutor, as a former top cop, as someone who's sympathetic to police officers, and we will treat her as such. We will protest and organize and put pressure on her to do right by the Black Lives Matter movement, to do right by the people, to hold police accountable.
Hawk, before you go, I'll give you one sentence to say goodbye to Donald Trump. Remember, this is radio and TV, so mind the language.
Mr. President Donald Trump, this fight isn't flesh. This fight isn't about people. The fight is good and evil. And this time, the good won. Good defeated your evil ways.
And that was the president of Black Lives Matter New York, Hawk Newsome.